Hello, hello. Who have we got in the chat there? Can everyone hear me? Is my audio working? I can see a few people in the chat. We've got Dots Locks, Chris Capoon, John Doe, there he is. Can you hear me, John? I'm not very good at lives. I haven't done lives very often, so I just need to make sure everything's working. Hello, hello. Tequila Dave just joined. Can you hear me, Tequila Dave? And Rune Smith there. Anyone confirm if they can hear me? Just before I get started. Oh, loud and clear. There we go. Cool. So I thought I've got a load of custom picks that are kind of in various stages of being ready. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of a live stream and just kind of work some of those. So I don't know if we're going to get any full custom picks finished today, but we're just going to work through some of the stuff that I've got sitting in the workshop. So the way I tend to do custom picks is to do them in batches. So rather than taking a pick, cutting the steel, cutting the wood, cutting everything, and just doing it start to finish, I tend to do a whole bunch of them. So I've got this box here. This is these picks are almost finished, so we'll just have a quick look at those, and perhaps we'll go through some of these and try and get them closer to being finished. So I think all of these picks here, they've all the steel's been shaped, it's all been polished. And then it's all been masked up so it doesn't get damaged when you're sanding it up. Now I tend to sort of really do very, very rough handles. You can see it looks bloody awful there, doesn't it? And then once it's at this stage, it's all been epoxied and the pins are in, I'll get sand in it and I'll do some rough shaping on the bench sander. So I'm going to do that in just a minute. And then I get out the hand sandpaper and just start kind of final shaping and polishing it. So let's have a look at the picks we've got. So this one, I think this one's ebony, and it's got the same Sheffield steel that Rob Lawn uses for his picks. I managed to get a nice source of it. It's quite thick. I think it's about 24 thousandths or something like that. But it's really, really strong, and it's great for picks. So I've got that one there. What else have we got? Now, unfortunately, I've forgotten what this wood is, but I'm pretty sure Chris Capoon, I saw Chris Capoon in the chat, I made Chris a pick out of this wood. And as you can see there, it looks bloody awful because this one was all sort of put together with epoxy, but we might sand that one down a little bit today. But you can see the grain of the wood, there's sort of lights and darks. It's really quite a hard wood as well. Got this one here, which I'm probably going to do this one today as well. This is a really nice wood. In fact, I'll just have a rummage. So I've got a whole bunch of woods here that I use for my custom picks, and this was the latest stuff I got. So this is what is it? It's dyed, stabilized, spalted maple. Really, really nice patination on this one, and I bought this one. Really liked it. You can just see it's almost iridescent. Those shadows in it kind of move around a little bit. Anyway, when I cut into it, inside it was all sort of brown and green, and it didn't look as nice. And initially I kind of felt a little bit disappointed that it wasn't this kind of green. But I thought once it gets some oil on it and it gets polished up, because I finish it with like a teak oil, it would look quite nice. And I've made, this is the second pick that I've made. I made one that's finished, and I found that the more I worked it, the more that green came out. So even though this one's just been rough cut and epoxied, I think by the time we finish sanding it today, that green would have come out and should look pretty nice. What else have we got? I've had these two knocking around for ages. I think they've been sat in this box for about 6 months. I can't even remember what picks what profiles I've put underneath it. This one's quite nice, it's like a fish shape. And I'm intending on this one to do some rat yoke style carving on the back of it. I've never really had a go with it, and I'm not overly confident, so I'm not sure how it would come out. And this one here, this one should look quite nice. I think what I'm going to do with this one, we'll do some rough shaping on it. You can see where I've put those diagonal lines across it. I was going to have those as high points and kind of wallow out the areas between it. So as you look at it from the side, it will be like almost like waves, I guess. So it'll be pinched there, and pinched there. So that one should look quite nice. I'm not sure if I'm ready to attempt that on live stream or not, because I might fuck it up. So we'll see how we get on. What else have we got? This one's quite a nice sleek looking pick. Again, this one's been here for about 6 months. I'm not sure what the tip is on this one, but we could probably try finishing this one. It's a partial tang. And I'm not sure of the wood on this one. I've got it all written down somewhere. Because I know what I'm like, I tend to forget things quite quickly. So I've got, let me bear with me. I've got this disorganised bunch of paperwork here, which has got a lot of pick templates and things like that in. And what I tend to do is to write down what I've done. So I log the wood, the steel, the tip, and then what pins I've put in it, so I can refer back to this. I'm sure I've logged those on here somewhere, but I can't quite remember. So what else we got? We've got this one here, which, yeah, that looks kind of quite basic, but I think this is really nice wood. This is an olive wood. I think that's the pen blank that it came from, and it doesn't look very inspiring at the moment, but I've seen some picks that have been made with this. It's quite a hard wood, and again, once you get the oil on these woods, they really sort of start to pop. So I think this one, although it looks bloody awful now, it's probably going to look quite nice, and it's quite thick as well, you can see. So this one will probably be rounded off and should look quite nice. And what else have we got here? We've got a couple of ebony strips. These are just strips ready for a pick to go in the middle of them, so they've just been prepped a bit. I think that one there's a Lock Valerian. It's the teardrop, which is one of my favourite profiles, the Lock, designed by Tiffany, who's an excellent custom pick maker, someone I look up to and have done for years. I've put a teal acrylic handle on it, so maybe we'll finish up this one today. You can see it's quite shiny there, but as you shape all of this, you need to use some quite rough sandpaper, and then it gets to be polished, and then you kind of go through the process of sanding, and then the sanding becomes polishing at a certain stage, and that'll be nice, sort of basic pick, but really nice and usable. Don't know what we've got in here. Let's have a quick look. Oh, so these are just steel blanks. These are the ones that Rob Lawn uses. So this is Sheffield steel. As I say, it was about 25 thousandths or something like that. And it's a really nice steel. I've used the Lock tool steel and Moki steel as well, and this one as well. I think those 3 types are the main ones that I've used. I've tried a couple of others and I just haven't got on well with them. Oh, Dot says he put some handles on his teardrop this morning. So yeah, nice one. It's the way to do it. I think if you're handy and you can just knock up something like this, or you've got the ability to just cut wood into strips like that, it's really easy to just take a Lock Valerian pick. I think I've got some somewhere. I'll have a look, and just sandwich it like that. Let's see if I've got some. I don't have any Lock Valerian ones. Rune Smith says, he used those ones I've got there. Has been dying to try some Moki blanks. How much wider are they? One of the picks I made recently was with a Moki blank. I've never bought any blanks from Moki, but I did a trade with someone. I can't remember who it is. It might even have been you, Rune Smith. I can't remember. But I made a pick out of it. It might have been one of the ones that I sold at Covert Instruments, but it was really, really nice. It polished up really well. So this is just some steel. These are steel that I've shaped up. They're various stages of being shaped. I'm just going to grab one of these as an example. So there, I mean, that's similar to a Lock Valerian steel. When you buy the Lock Valerian tools, it's just steel. You don't get any handles with it at all. The easiest way I found to put handles on it, I've got some acrylic here, and this is what I did with this one. So this is a Lock Valerian, and I bought some of this. which is just Perspex, and I got this off eBay. I think it was an A5 size sheet. Didn't cost very much at all, and then you just cut it into strips, which is what I've done with this one. Cut it into strips that are that size, like that one there, and then you can put them either side. And if you don't even need any sort of special tools to do it either, I find if you rough up the steel, you just need to get a file and really rough up that steel, and then take perhaps a Stanley knife and just do some cuts into there just to rough up that wood as well. Bear with. And then you can just epoxy the two together. Epoxy it together, and you've got a nice usable little pick. Just get some 120 grit, round off those corners, and it's pretty good. Dot says, how are you cutting the strips though, mate? What strips are you talking about? Are you talking about the wood or the steel, or where is he? Would it be the steel that you're talking about? So if you bought steel blanks from Locks, how are you cutting those? Is that what you mean? So I've got these. If you buy any of the sort of Lock offcuts, you'll get something like this. These are 23 thousandths. I think if you've seen any of Lock's videos online, he has got, you know, really big sheets of stainless steel like that, and he lays out all of his picks, and he lasers them all out. Yes, the wood, please, mate. 2 secs, Dots, and I'll get to you, mate. Yeah, and then he cuts out all the picks, and then rather than throw the offcuts out, he sells them to us. As you can see there, some shapes have been cut out of that. That looks like a ridgeback. It's like that echo symbol from the ridgeback. So yeah, the strips you'll get from Lock look something like that. Best thing to cut these with is just a hacksaw, and we're going to do a little bit of that in a minute. But Dots was asking about the wood. I struggle cutting the handles straight. So you've got a couple of options really. It depends what you've got available to you. So just clear a bit of room here. Making a mess already. So if you go onto eBay, mate, you get pen blanks, and you can get wooden pen blanks like this one I showed you. Acrylic pen blanks like these ones over here. But also, if you have a look, you can get things like this. So this is ebony, and I didn't pay much for this. I think I've got a couple of them. I've got this one here, and if you look at the listing, they've got the sizes on them. So that this one's about 12 mil thick by about 60 mil. But this one here, it kind of tapers. It's like wedge shaped. But at this end, it's about 2 mil. At that end, it's about 5 mil. But all I did was cut it on the bench with a saw. So you just need, I think I just cut mine with a tenon saw and a bench grip. Oh no, actually I think I did these in the vise. I might have just put them in the vise like that and just cut down. And what you want to do if you're cutting it and you're a bit shit at cutting and your lines are going to go wobbling all over the place, then just cut it oversized. So as you can see, going back to these picks here, they're massively oversized. This pick is going to be thinned down quite a lot. And although I've cut these pieces of wood roughly the size of the steel, you can see the steel inside. When I originally used to do it, before I wasn't very careful. I used to do the wood way oversized, and then I use a belt sander, which we'll use in a minute. And when you start working it down, you're cutting away the wood and you're cutting it down till it hits the steel. So basically, in answer to your question, cut the wood oversize and then work it back. It's a lot of work if you're using hand sandpaper. But if you're using a bench sander, you'll see in a minute. We'll do a couple of these picks. It doesn't take too long at all to work them down. So anyway, we've got a bunch of picks there. Let's get those out of the way. We'll choose one of those in a minute. I think I'll just quickly show you some of the stuff that I've got in the workshop before we get started. So as I say, these are acrylic blanks here. You can get these off eBay. Just search acrylic pen blanks. And sometimes you'll just get a nice special one, and sometimes sometimes you'll get perhaps, I don't know, 5 pink ones, or sometimes they'll do a mixed bag. So I think these are ones that I bought about a year or so ago, and I've just not got around to using. This one here, actually, I think I bought 5 of these, all different patterns, but they're all that black, silver and red. And yeah, these picks look really nice once I shape those ones. Dot says he's shit at cutting straight. Yeah, fair enough, mate. It takes a bit of practice. Don't get disheartened, mate. I mean, I make some fancy picks, and I put some really nice photos on Instagram and that. And but when I first made picks, they looked fucking awful, mate. You can go back. I'll upload some of my picks at a later stage, my early ones. Honestly, they're a real dog's dinner. They look fucking terrible, but they worked. So the more you practice it, the better you get. Yes, this one's black, silver. It's got oranges in it. It looks kind of like lava, that one. This one here, I've not used it yet because I don't really know what it is. I mean, inside you've got this white kind of colour. And I imagine once we get a nice sort of fancy pick, something like that, you know, something with a nice shape on it, some of that white is going to come out. It's going to look really nice. Lock Leisure's just joined us. Hello, mate. A few other different ones here. That's like a cream and purple. It's got some pearlescent in it. And these acrylic pen blanks, once you have shaped the pick, you don't really know what colours you're going to get, because, you know, buried in there is a sort of fancy pick shape. And sometimes they're really, well, most times they're really nice. I've got that one there. I've already made a pick out of that, so I tend to get a couple of picks out. It depends on the size of the blank. I tend to get a couple of picks out. So these ones here, you can see I've cut this blue one in half, and then I've cut a tang slot for it. So, you know, I'll take a piece of steel like that, cut it down kind of where my thumb is, and then slot that in like that. Not like that, that looks shit. But yeah, if you're careful, you can get a couple out of this. I don't know what your workshop's like, Dots, but the other thing you can do, let me just turn you around, yeah? I'm lucky enough to have this table saw here, so I cut a lot of stuff on the table saw. You've got to be careful because you're cutting like cutting a block like this and then slicing 3 or 5 mil off of it. You've got to be really careful of your fingers and use a push stick, something like that. But yeah, a table saw like this is fantastic for doing that. But I appreciate not everyone's got that. So just keep your eyes peeled and you'll find something like this on eBay. I'll see if I can find a link to it, mate, and fire it over. But yeah, if you look at the sizes on eBay, you might be able to find some. You want something that's going to be about 5 mil thick is the ideal. Yeah, or sort of 3 mil like that acrylic sheet that I showed you. The acrylic sheets are dead cheap. That's probably the easiest thing to use, is just use this, because this is quite easy to cut with just a hacksaw. Picksmith in the chat. Look, I mean, we've got a master in the chat, master pick maker. I've not got anything to tell you, Picksmith. I think I learned everything off of you. Let's turn you around again. So yes, we've got the acrylic there. So sometimes I go through that, search for a little bit of inspiration. Usually I start with a steel. I shape a bunch of steel like these picks here. And then once I've got it all sort of shaped up, I decide what handles I'm going to put on later. So I've got some more wood here, so you've seen that, that's that ebony. Been meaning to use this one for a while. This one is rare white Egyptian acacia wood. I got this from Kix Picks. I think it's from Egypt. We did a trade a couple of years ago. This has been sat here for a while, but I thought it'd be really nice to yeah, have a pick that sits between that sort of two tones. You get the dark on top and light on the bottom, and that'll look quite nice. But yeah, I've not got around to using that one. And we've got a various blanks in here. I think most of these came off of eBay. Actually, a few of these came from Kix Picks as well. Egyptian red eucalyptus wood. And again, these woods, they don't look that nice, but you know, guaranteed with a nice bit of wood like that, eucalyptus or mahogany I got here, once you shape it up and you put the T-coil on it, they just really pop. They look really, really nice. Runesmith is off. See you later, mate. yeah, various other bits of wood in there. We got some here. These are in kind of various stages of finish. I think on Friday I was in here and I found this, which is called tambooth. I've never heard it. Tambooth sounds African. I don't know. But I cut this down on the table saw you just saw over there. And look at that grain. It looks really nice. So I think with this one I cut a partial tang slot. You can see it just there, hopefully. So this will be a partial tang pick, and then I put some masking tape on it and just started sketching out this shape. So the picking tip will be there. But I think this one will look really nice. We might cut this out. I recently bought a scroll saw. I used to do with picks like this. Who was saying it was Dots saying his shit at cutting? If you look at my videos showing how I make custom picks, the way I would shape something like this is just I'd be chopping away bits at a time. So I'd, make a chop there, make a chop there, make a chop there, cut down here, cut in there, and it'd look like a real dog's dinner. But once you get that on the belt sander, you just work all that wood away until you get to your shape. So luckily I kind of got bored of doing that. Luckily for me, I bought a scroll saw, so we'll use that a bit later and perhaps cut this one out, because that makes it a lot easier to do curves like this. And then epoxy the steel in and then final shaping. I've got a few other interesting bits in here. I'll just have a quick look through. We've got some yew there. That's some bog oak, that is. Ancient bog oak, apparently. I'm no wood expert. I've only learnt what I know about wood since making custom picks, which has been about 6 years or something like that. But the ancient bog oak, when I did a little bit of research on it, apparently it's oak, so it's a light colour. Oak sort of more like that colour, I think, normally. And either by a tree sort of falls down, lands in a bog, and just sort of sits there for hundreds or thousands of years sometimes, and then it kind of starts. I think it's like a petrification process. And part of that is that it takes on the colour of the bog. So I don't know how true that is. I'm just repeating what I've heard. But if you read up on bog oak, that's what it says. So a piece of bog oak like this that has become darkened in colour could well be like 1500 or 2000 years old, which I really, really like. It's nice to play with other types of wood that kind of look really nice and they've got grains like that in them. I think this was your one. Chris Capoon, I think that's an offcut of your pick. It's got some really nice grains in it, but I really like the age of something like that, bog oak, and it looks really rustic as well. What else have we got in here? You'll see that I've got loads of tiny little offcuts here, and I don't really throw much away, and it's not because I'm a hoarder, but they do come in useful. So when you have cut a couple of picks out of a piece of wood, you'll have offcuts. So what I tend to do is keep them in here, and then there we go. Yeah, I just glue them together. You can see that there. I'm not sure. Oh, that's yew, and that is, I think that's jarrah, that wood. So I just glue them together, and then at some point I'll make a pick out of this, and we'll get a nice two-tone pick. We've got this one here. That's two-tone as well. I think that wood on the top is a Rocco, really, really nice wood. And I think, what's that going to be? I think that's walnut on that side. I made a pick a little while ago out of one of these, and a Lorlock Steels pick. So this one I've cut a partial tang for it as well. So this one's all ready to go. All I need is the pick. Anyway, that's all my wood and steel and stuff, so I think we'll get started. Actually, I could do a quick tour of the workshop. I haven't got a massive workshop, but I'll do a quick tour, and then we'll get some power tools on. Chris says he loves his pick. That came out really nice, that pick, Chris. Do you use it much, mate? That was made with the Rob Lawn it's not Rob Lawn, it's another chap up in Sheffield, but it's the same steel that Rob Lawn uses. And honestly, this stuff is bulletproof. I made a few picks. I made your one out of this. I made one for Roy Salmon's. I made a couple of picks out of it, and I said to the people that I sent off to kind of abuse them a little bit. And I made a couple myself, and they just don't bend. They're just really, really solid. Show a quick tidy up. So I imagine Picksmith has got a really nice workshop. I'm just going to back up a little bit so you can see what I've got. It's just the end of this area here. That's pretty much my workshop. None of the tools are particularly expensive. They're all really basic. I got them from, I don't know, this table saw was like from Facebook Marketplace or something like that. This is my bench sander. We'll have this out in a minute. It's not meant to be a bench sander. I've just mounted it upside down on this piece of wood, and it used to be quite secure. It's a bit wobbly now. But yeah, it's quite a cheap one. Got that from B&Q. I've got my scroll saw down there, which is really useful for cutting things out on. Perhaps we'll cut that pick I showed you out on a little bit later. This is used all the time. Again, it's a cheap tool. I inherited this from somebody, but it's not a decent one. It's quite a sort of cheap make. This is used for shaping the pick steel. We'll do a bit of that later. This is used for polishing the metal. And then I've got this one in here, which I use for polishing wood. This one's got a lot of wax on it. I'm not sure where the wax is, but yeah, it's got like metal. It looks like green metal polish. So that one's for polishing wood. Got some hacksaw blades in there. If you're cutting steel up, then I really recommend the 32 teeth per inch, 32 TPI. And these ones seem to go, they're really good. What else we got? Everything in this drawer is for pick making. This is a steel hole punch, just for punching the holes in the steel. Again, I think I got this one off of eBay or Amazon or something like that. It's quite a generic tool, it's probably made in China. And I got this a couple of years ago. Well, I got it about 3 years ago, I think, 4 years ago. And it's been bulletproof. It always cuts holes really well. You've got different sizes you can cut out there. And it just goes through steel really easily. And then over here, obviously, you've got a vise. This is a vise. I've had this for years, but I inherited it, and the jaws of it are really not designed for what I use it for. It's kind of designed for heavy metal work. I really need to replace these jaws with some flat ones, but you can see it's kind of textured. So if you grip steel in it, it will just destroy the steel. So I tend to do a bit of a bodge. I've got this vise here, which is... this has got like much smoother jaws on it, so I use this vise to hold this vise, and then I cut the steel. I'll show you that later. So it's a little bit of a bodge really. I should really get some better jaws, but it's a case of I'll get round to it one day. I've got some tools up here. These come in useful. I used to use these to glue picks together. What else do I use for pick making? Oh, these files are excellent. So I use these for challenge locks as well, but I bought them for challenge locks, but I use them for fine shaping steel, Velourby, and these are quite expensive files. I can't remember how much these were, but I got them from a jewellery making, a jewellery suppliers website, but they're really good. shitty old hacksaw. That's just used for cutting the steel with that 32 TPI blade. Cuts through it quite well. I think down here I've got all my sandpapers. Oh, that's the wax for the polishing wheel. So I've got like rough sandpapers down here, and then I've got the fine micro mesh pads. These are really awesome if you want to polish up wood or polish up metal. And then I've got another box here full of shit. What have we got here? So I think this has just got epoxy in it, a little bit of metal polish. That's the stuff that I use, Gorilla Glue. I think you get cheaper stuff. This is about, it's about 5 or 6 quid, I think, but you can get, I don't know, you get about 7 picks out of it, so you don't have to use too much of it either. These are for making partial tangs, cuts into the woods. Not sure that one's going to fit. It's not going to fit, is it? Yeah, so you take one of those wooden pen blanks, put it in there, put it in the vise, and then this is a saw guide to cut down so that your partial tang doesn't wander off too much. Right, I think that's about it. Let's put all this away and we'll start making some noise. Picksmith says paying extra for good files is a must, and the punch is a must as well. Yeah, definitely, mate. They're tools that you really should have. Yeah, see you later, Picksmith. He's shooting off. Got to get some breakfast. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is kind of work on a couple of these picks. And we'll just start shaping them, making them look a little bit nicer, I think. Get rid of all this shitty epoxy. So initially I've got some 80 grit on there. So I'm going to use the 80 grit for a little while. And then I'm going to put some, I think I've got some 120 somewhere, which I'll put on there. This is probably going to get quite loud because it's a noisy power tool, so you might want to turn the volume down for a bit while I'm doing this. A little bit of PPE. Don't want the dust in your lungs, and it's a bit noisy, so I'm going to put some headphones on. AJ's just joined us. You're right, mate. I'm about to make a load of noise, mate, so you might want to turn your volume down. So I've taken off all the epoxy now, and I've cut down that wood like I was saying, Dots. So the wood's gone down. I found the steel, and that tells me when to stop. So now I've pretty much found the shape of the steel. So what I could do with this one is just round off those radiuses and call it a day, soak it in teak oil, that sort of thing. But I think what I might do is get a bit fancy. I might wallow out some of this side. Chris Capoon's pick was like that. It was kind of fat there, then it went thin in that lot of thin waist, and then fat at the end. So I might do that on this pick, and then I'll use the end of the sander to try and sort of shape it a bit better. I'll just do this by hand. I've got to say, quite often with my picks, I make them up as I go along. I don't really have much of a plan. I showed you these papers earlier on, so I've got some fancy drawings there. So sometimes, you know, I sort of choose a design here, and I aim for that, but as I'm working it, it just kind of changes shape a little bit. So I've got a lot of respect for people like Rat Yoke and people who can do sets of picks that all look the same, because mine tend to be, although I'll use this as a start template, they kind of, I don't know, they go in the direction they go in, so it's kind of an organic thing for me. Not the best drawing in the world, but that just gives me a little bit of a guide to take the same amount off on both sides. Don't forget my ear defenders. just going to try and, this is 80 grit that I've got on there. So I've got some nice shape to this one now. I've got that pinched waist, and I've pinched it in at the front and then pinched it in at the back, and I'm just starting to sort of bevel those edges just to give it a really nice sort of feel. It should be quite comfortable actually, because that thin waist sits on your index finger when you're picking. Hello Rabbi Picker, how you doing mate, you alright? So I'm going to just have a quick rummage around and see if I can find my 120 grit. If you want to get, is Dot still in the chat? I don't know. Yeah, he's still in the chat. You're right, Dots. I think I got this one. It's Eberhauer, which is, I got it from B&Q. I think at the time I bought it, it was about 50 quid. And then, yeah, it's supposed to be the other way around. It's not supposed to be a bench grinder, but bench grinders are about, I don't know, they were double the price. But this one's got a nice flat base on it, so I just fucking nailed it to this bit of wood. So that was, oh no, that was 120 grit. I thought we were on 80 grit. No, that is that one. Put that one back on then. I assumed I had 80 grit on there, but we actually had 120 on anyway. So I'm going to do a little bit more on this one, just to get rid of those sort of harsh edges there, because this will all be radiused, it'll all be smooth. And I think I might do another one. So this one, what wood is this? This is ebony. I think the tip on this one is a deforest diamond. It's really nice actually. They're a pain in the ass to make. It's really easy to make a short hook or a gem or something like that, or a flat hook, you know. But these ones take a little bit of time because it's got the ball on the end. I might show you that tip once I've finished this bit. I've got to be a little bit careful because that one there had brass pins in it. And the brass pins, as I was sanding it down there on the bench sander, that brass just gets taken away. But with stainless steel, it's a lot harder. And although the stainless steel does get taken away, it doesn't get fully taken away, and you could end it kind of it spoils the wood a little bit. So I think what you got to do is kind of work the stainless steel down a little bit, and then sand, and then work it down a little bit as necessary. If you do it all on the sander, the stainless steel can also end up tearing your sandpaper. So then I'll just put it in the vise. I'll grab a hand file down, and then I can there we go. Yeah, I'm just going to use this rounded file. This isn't going to look too pretty, by the way, but it will help us out in a minute. AJ says he's not got the patience for this. I find it a bit therapeutic, to be honest. Sometimes it goes wrong. I think this pick actually went a bit wrong when I was epoxying it. I think a little bit of this ebony broke off. So I'm going to have to work a little bit of magic on this shitty tip. So occasionally you have disasters, but majority of the time it is quite relaxing, I find anyway. But then I've fucked up enough picks as I've been making them to know that sometimes you make mistakes. It's just the way it goes. So I can't feel that stainless steel anymore, it's kind of flush with the wood, so we should be kind of okay to start sanding this, I think. Do a little bit more. Right, we'll see if we can make this one a little bit prettier. So I'll put this back on, get a bit noisy again. Has everyone got a good view of this? Does it look all right? I mean, I can't see through the phone. AJ says, DMAC, you got 120 on already. Is that 120 people watching? Hunson says yes, so it looks all right, mate. Yeah, that's cool. Sometimes I find is I've done a few pick making videos, and half the time I spend setting up the tripod and the camera, because you know the best view that you'll get of whatever anyone's doing is pretty much where their face is. It's like when you're picking. If I'm picking like this, you know, the camera's right in front of my face where my eyes need to be. And it's similar with pick making, and I've got fucking great hands, so my big mitts get in the way and you can't see anything. So glad you can see what's going on. Dot says he's got a smaller version of that. It's a time saver for sure. Is that the bench sander, mate? Chris says it looks great. Nice one. Not too noisy for you, Chris, eh? Just going to get the respirator back on. Very important when you're working with wood. When I first started making custom picks, I didn't bother with it, but it's pretty dangerous, some of these woods, especially the sort of tropical woods, so it's better to put it on. Be safe than sorry. And the ear defenders, don't forget them. Let's have a look at that one then. State of my hands, look. Sometimes I get shit on my YouTube videos. I get comments saying, why don't you clean your hands and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm a manual worker. I work with my hands, not just making picks, but you know, in my normal job. And when you're working, your fingers look like shit, you know, nothing you can do about it. Anyway, most of that is wood dust. Right, let's have a look at this pick then. So if you saw it about 15 minutes ago, it looked pretty shit. It was covered in epoxy, you know, really ugly, like that one there. And just a bit of working with a 120 grit, we've got him all nice and smooth now. Now he's nowhere near finished, not enough for me. That's just a first rough shaping, rough sanding. But yeah, it looks quite a nice shape. What do you think? The steel in this one, let me just bear with me. Yeah, the steel used is that same stuff that Rob Lawn uses, which is this here. It's about 10mm wide. And it's like the perfect, it's Nick Urquhart on the Facebook, UK Facebook group that sells it. It's 130mm total. Most of my picks have got, I tend to have about a 40mm picking tip, or the shaft, you know, the metal part. So that gives you, yeah, it's about 40mm there. So it gives you about a 90mm handle, which is pretty good for my big hands. It means that you can't shape it too much, like you can't do, you know, fancy kind of wider shapes like that. You need the Lawlock tools offcuts, but these are really good for doing that. And I think that one we were doing earlier, I'm pretty sure that is also that same steel. Yeah, it's 10mm thick. So yeah, exactly the same one. So now, what do you reckon? Shall I carry on shaping this one with a bit of hand sandpaper, or should we go on to cutting some steel? We could perhaps make a picking tip from this if you want. Let me know in the comments. What should we do? Should we do like a short hook or a gem or something like that? Like, it takes, I think it takes about 20 minutes or something to shape up a usable hook from something like that. So I've got a few here. These are sort of pre-shaped. I've had a couple there. These ones have gone a bit wrong. What did we say? Bends in the pick shaft, tip is bent. I got this one too hot, it says. Yeah, this steel, if you get it too hot when you're on the grinder, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Let's see if I can show you. But the hook, it's hard to focus. The hook kind of goes off to the left as we're looking at it there. I think when you heat it up too much, I think it's got some sort of memory in it and it kind of twists off to one side. That one there, what does it say? Bends in the pick shaft. Kind of looks all right. It's a rough hook. Oh, I think there's a very slight bend over to the side. I think I must have knocked it when I was shaping it. And I've got a few here. These ones are almost finished. So what I tend to do is I rough them out, start off with that, rough them out to a pick shape, something like that. And then I do like a sort of rough polish on them. I don't polish it fully. I think I get like 800 grit and 1000 grit, take off all the edges, and then I take them home, I give them a bit of a test pick. So that one there is like a monkey paw tip. Can you see that? It's got a little notch in the end. It's like a medium monkey paw tip. That one there is similar to a scimitar, the Tiffany scimitar. I thought I had another one that was finished. And that one there is just sort of rough shaped. I think what I might do is we'll get some steel in the vise, and I can show you how I'd go about shaping it to that level, and we might do a little bit of polish on it as well. See how the time goes. We're about 1 hour and 20 minutes in. Before we go and do that, I think I will just do a bit more rough shaping on this, and then we'll go over and start working on some steel. So sandpaper wise, I've got shitloads of it, all loads of offcuts. I tend to use this stuff here. I think it's the 240 grit. Yeah, it's this stuff here. It's really quite a nice sandpaper, that one, Norton. That's a number 4, and it is 240 grit. Yeah, I just want to get rid of all these harsh edges there. The other thing this 240 is really good for is where I was taking that wood back to the steel. The bench grinder has really cut into that steel and it scored it all. And this sandpaper, it's not just 240 grit, it's this sandpaper in particular, for whatever reason, is just really good at getting those tool marks out of the steel, and it almost polishes it up good enough to use. Coming up nicely there. You can appreciate now why I put the masking tape on all of the picking tips. This is nice and thick. I think I've folded over that masking tape about 4 times or something. So when you're coming back and forward with the sandpaper, you're not going to risk tearing into it. Let's have a little look at that one, see what we got. That's looking pretty nice. We've got some nice grain in the wood as well. When we do get some teak oil on this, it's going to look really, really nice. And you can see the middle where I sort of gave it a bit of a skinny waist, tapered the tip and tapered the tail. So that's looking nice, looking comfortable. Now that was 120 grit on the bench sander. That was 240 grit just to get rid of those rough edges. But I tend to go mad with my picks. I spend a lot of time sanding them and then polishing them. I'm not going to do it near because you don't want to see me sit here for an hour just sort of like, you know, rubbing a pick. But after the 240, I usually go to 320. I then go to 600. I then go to 800. And by the time you get to 800, it's kind of really quite smooth. And this starts to be polished at around that stage. I then do 800, I do 1000 grit, and then I go on to the micro mesh pads. Picksmith was on earlier, and he was taking the piss out of me once for polishing my wood with the micro mesh pads. But it's a way to get a really nice shine on it. Now these micro mesh pads, we've got 9 different grades there. I think it starts off about 1500 grit and goes up to something stupid like 30,000 or something. This is so smooth. And by the time you get probably halfway through this, about a third through it, this is, you know, starting to become polished. Look at that acrylic there, that's kind of glossy. It kind of starts developing a gloss to it. And once that's done, I move over then to this buffing wheel, not this one here. I've got the wood polishing wheel just down the bottom, and then polish it all up with some wax as well. And then I do the teak oil dip to get that grain to pop out, because wood, it kind of looks pretty plain at the moment. When you get that teak oil on it, it darkens down and really brings out the pattern. But yeah, I'm not going to bore you with that, but that one is where we started looking at these picks. These are initial shaping and epoxied, and that would be sort of second shaping, so it's mostly shaped, and there it just needs to be sanded until it's really smooth. And then this one here, I'd go through the same process with that, with a 120 grit, because you can see, I think these edges here are nice and smooth. Managed to do them quite nicely on the bench grinder, but the 240 grit will kind of get these curves looking better. You can see some sharp angles there, so go over it a little bit with this. And some woods are softer than others. Can't remember what this is, I think it's ebony. Already that's looking better. And these dark woods, the ebony or the African black woods, just really start to shine as well. They almost look like acrylic by the time you've finished them. So I think we'll leave those picks like that. As I say, I'm not going to bore you for hours and hours watching me sand picks. So I think I'm going to get some steel. I'll get rid of this shit here, get some steel, and we'll put it in the vise, and we'll perhaps cut a hook or two. So when you buy this steel here, this is the one from Nick Urquhart, I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I murdered your name. He always marks it, and he sort of says to put the tip on that side. And he did explain to me why, but I can't remember. But I always trust him and keep the tip on that side. So it's 130mm long. I think our tip wants to be about 40mm. I'll put it there. There's different ways. Where's that gone? There's different ways to orientate picks. So you can see the shaft in this one comes out of the middle of the handle like that. Oh, Handsome Pick says he's got to go to work. Nice work. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Philip's in the chat. 80. Oh, sorry, Zoyan. I'm going to say Zoyan. There you go. He's in the chat as well. Yeah, some of the picks come out of the middle. And in order to do that, you've got to use the hacksaw to shape both edges. It does give you a stronger pick edge. But sometimes, let me take this one off. I'll show you the steel under this because it is quite nice. What I tend to do, because I'm a little bit lazy, is use one edge of the steel. So in this case here, you know, that edge that you can see, that bottom part of the pick, is actually the bottom edge of the steel. So it means I've only got to cut one half of it. So as I say, it's a little bit lazy, but it kind of gives you, I like the look of that offset hook as well, you know, rather than it coming out the middle. And it can be a real pain in the arse to make it, to put the pick shaft in the middle. Sometimes I do it and it wanders off to one side or the other. But yeah, we're just bringing that picking tip. As you can see, when we were working it, I didn't want to damage that nicely polished steel. But that is a deforest half diamond on there. Really nice tip, that. And I'm going to mask it back up because the last thing I want to do is scratch that, because that's gone through all of those stages of grits I talked about with the handles, right up the microfiber mesh pads. It's been polished on the bench grinder wheel, and it's also been metal polished as well, so it should be kind of flawless mirror finish. Very nice. And yeah, last thing I want to do is scratch it up. And as I said before, I always put a good few layers on there, because this pick, they've got a lot more sand in to go till this handle's finished. TX Rebel, morning, AJ. AJ says, I guess you need to go that route for the longer picking tips too. What do you mean, mate? Go which way for longer picking tips? Oh, I think I see what you're saying. You're sort of saying if you wanted something that's got more reach, like a deeper hook, it's easier to put it at one side. Yeah, 100%. I mean, particularly with these blanks here, and I think the Moki ones are pretty similar. I think Moki cuts his really nicely like this as well, which is great, but it limits how fancy your pick handle can be. I'll get something like that one. You're not going to get that out of these steel blanks. I'll grab one of the Lock ones. As I said earlier, when you get the Lock blanks, these are 19,000s. You get all sorts of weird shapes. Some of them are quite small, like that one, but others are really big, so you could make a really nice, fancy, sort of swirly pick. Where did that other one go? Yeah, like that one there I showed you earlier. If you were doing a full, this one's just a partial tang, but if you were doing a full tang, then yeah, we obviously can't use that thin stuff. The Moki ones would be too small, but the Lock ones are massive. You could even get, you know, bigger and swirlier with that one. And yeah, like you say, if you wanted, you know, a real deep hook, not that you want it like 35mm deep. I don't know, maybe you do. Maybe you've got some really high set pins. But yeah, if you wanted a deep hook, then you could do whatever you need out of that, even if you had the pick coming out the middle. Right, I'm going to wrap this one up, and then we'll mark this steel up, and then we'll cut it. Swamp Pickers just arrived. How you doing, mate? Oh, we were going to cut that one out, weren't we, on the scroll saw? Maybe do that as well. Okay, so we've got our steel there. We've got our tip, which is going to be 40mm. And then I'm going to roughly draw a line just down here. Try and bring you in a bit closer. So we draw a line like that. That is our pick shaft. That bit at the top is what we're getting rid of. And we don't want a dead stop, so we'll kind of shape this up. Something like that. And when we choose a handle for this one, you can finish the handle where you like. I mean, the handle could sort of come down here like that. Could come straight down like that, or we could kind of sweep it back at an angle, something like that. Right, so we need to put a tip on this one. Unless I'm doing a specific tip, like that deforest diamond, I tend to just roughly do the tip, and I make things up as I go along. So let's just do a rough shape there. This will all change shape as we go along, so I've done a kind of fat gem hook. So we'll go with something like that. So all I'm going to use to do the rough shaping is 32 TPI hacksaw blade. That's 32 teeth per inch. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I really don't use the right vise. I should get a different vise with better jaws in it. But basically, I don't want to go putting this pick in these jaws, because this is like a textured metal rather than a flat metal. It's just going to destroy the pick. This vise here has got flat jaws, so I tend to put this little vise in the big vise and use that to hold the pick. It's not the best way to do it. It's just my little workaround for my lack of proper tooling. So the way we're going to do it is I'm going to make a couple of sort of cuts down into that tip, and I'm going to take off little pieces at a time. Don't try and do it all in one. Firstly, you risk kind of bending the metal, and if you put a kink in this metal, then it's fucked and you've got to start all over again. You'll never get that kink out of it. And yeah, the other reason is, even though I'm just using a hand hacksaw, the steel gets really hot. If you're picking steel like this one, this is 301 high yield stainless steel, if it gets too hot to touch, if it's uncomfortable for you to put your fingers on it, then you've got it too hot. And even when using just a normal hacksaw, it will get to that temperature, I've found. So what I tend to do is kind of nibble it off. So I put this in the vise, I put it all the way down in the vise, just working on a tiny section at a time. And I do a vertical cut and then a horizontal cut and then a vertical cut and a horizontal cut, slowly moving it up as I go. So that's what we're going to do now. So you can see there's only like 3 mil sticking up out of the vise. If I have that any higher in the vise, you risk bending that steel. Sorry about the noise, by the way. So I've cut down almost level with the vise. Now I'm going to cut across and get rid of that little chunk. You see that there? I cut down vertically, cutting across, and I'll just nip that bit out, and we'll just repeat the process. AJ says, ever thought about getting rubber jaw inserts or some sacrificial plate bent over the jaws? I did make these. These are made of like a PVC, and I put these like that. So you've got the jaws there, it closes together. And I use that sometimes if I'm cutting the wooden pick handles, because this stuff is PVC, it's really quite soft. You see my finger is marking it. So they're nice soft jaws, but they're not hard enough to hold the steel. I did look on eBay a little while ago, and there's a company that does do jaws for vices, because you've got a couple of bolts here and these jaws just come out, and they are aluminium, and they're nice and smooth. So I think I've got some in my basket, but I just haven't got around to buying them. They've been in my basket for about 6 months, so I'm a bit disorganized when it comes to the workshop sometimes, because life gets in the way. But yes, mate, in an ideal world, I just need to buy the aluminium jaws, because the aluminium's softer than the steel, so that it shouldn't mark it in theory. So just nibbling down into it. If you're attempting this, then slow and steady, that's my advice. When I tend to rush it, that's when I fuck things up. And if, as I say, if you catch that steel with a hacksaw, or you have that too high out of your vise, then once you've bent it, it's fucked and you've got to start all over again. Oh, got a bit loose then. I think it only takes about 20 minutes or so to shape a decent hook to the point when you can just do a little test pick with it and make sure it's the right shape. It doesn't take too long. And I'm not cutting really close to that line that I drew. I'm cutting close to it, but if I go into it, then again I fuck the pick up. So, but the closer you can get to it, the less we've got to grind off. Where did I get the metal from again, and what is it made of? So it's 301 high yield stainless steel, which is the best stuff to make lockpicks from. You can get it from Moki in Germany. I think Lockpicker's Bench in USA you might be able to get it from as well. Lock Tools sell really nice big offcuts. Yeah, Lock Tools sell massive ones like this. These ones came from my contact in Sheffield, England, and he's a little bit shy. He doesn't like selling to everybody, so he asked me not to tell everyone where he's from. But if you're on the UK Lockpickers Coliseum of whatever it is, I can't remember the name, sorry, Welsh Lockpicker, but the UK Lockpickers Face Group, Nick Urquhart is on there. And if you're nice to him, he might sell you some. But this stuff's really, really strong. I made a few picks from it when I first got it, and I sent them out to a few people in the community and just said, you know, abuse them a little bit and really lever them. And no one's reported any problems. And I've got a couple of these that I use as well when I'm sort of picking. I've used them in videos before, and they're really, really strong. UK Lockpickers Coliseum of Locksport. Thanks, AJ. I'm such a div. It's just such a mouthful of a name, isn't it? UK Lockpickers Coliseum of Locksport. Great group, though. If you're in the UK, you should join it. Right, we're getting there. A couple more and then we'll move over to the grinder and we can sort of start fine shaping this. Look at that, I got a little bit carried away. I've gone into where I'd marked, so it's not too bad. But as I say, when I make picks, they kind of evolve a little bit as I'm making them. Never know exactly how they're going to come out. If any of you are not familiar with like hacksawing, it sounds like it does sound really obvious, but the best thing you can do is you cut on the stroke you're pushing away from yourself, and rather than kind of fight with it and really force the hacksaw into the metal, when you're using your hand, you're pushing that way. You're not pushing into the metal. If you fight it, then you've got more chance of kind of bending this piece of metal here and the hacksaw blade kind of jumping around. So you almost use the weight of the blade itself and then just concentrate on pushing forward, and you get much cleaner cuts, and you'll get a nice rhythm going. I'm not an expert really in these things, it's just something that I found works. Alright, I think we're done. Just nip that last bit off. So there we go, that's the rough cut there. So we're going to move over to the grinder now, take all that ugly shit off and try and make it look a bit nicer. Yes, AJ, let the tool do the work. That's the motto of this live. Let me move you over. There we go. Now, if you're wondering what grit this wheel is, I haven't got any idea at all. It's the one that came with it. I'm quite basic. It works. It does say on here, what does it say? There was a 60 grit and a 36 grit that came with it. I think it's the finer of the two, so I'm pretty sure it's a 36 grit. That's just my best guess. That's my water that I use to quench it with. If you've seen my videos of lockpicking, I'm going to fire this up in a minute, and then I'm going to work on the grinder a little bit. But you kind of, if you overheat the metal, as I say, if you get it to the temperature where it's too hot and it would burn your fingers, or it feels too hot to hold it, you've got it too hot, you'll ruin the temper of the steel, you'll ruin the integrity of it, and your pick's more likely to bend. So I'll do a couple of sort of touches on the wheel, dip it in the water, and I just keep repeating that again and again and again and again until we get it shaped. So all I've got to do, I mean, is get rid of that big lump there, get rid of these, shouldn't take too long, and then we can use the hand files and get some fine shaping. I might just quickly make that line a little bit darker actually. Dot says, I'm the same. The profiles change as I go. Yeah, exactly the same, mate. I make it up as I go along, always have, but seems to get some results. Some good results, but I do have disasters. It does go wrong sometimes. I just don't shout about it as much when I make mistakes. Okay, so I've just darkened that down a little bit, so I've got a bit better contrast. That should give you a good view, shouldn't it, if I'm there? Yeah, that should be right. Going to get a little bit noisy again, so apologies for the noise. Best regards from Germany. That's from East Fist. How you doing, mate? All right? Not a mistake until it can be rectified or changed. That's right, AJ. Happy accidents, as Bob Ross used to call it. If you've never seen Bob Ross, go and check him out on YouTube. Did some really nice, really kind of relaxing ASMR oil paintings back in the 80s. But yeah, he used to fuck things up all the time, and he always called them happy accidents, and I'm the same. All right, let's get this on. Well, actually, safety first. I always use goggles, so I've got to get those on. Last thing you want is shit from the steel flying up into your eyes, or yeah. Okay, goggles on, ear defenders on as well. Right, that's our hook, rough shaped. It's kind of like a gem. I think we'll just do a little bit more finishing on this one. I'll just turn you around here again. I've been using this shitty old block of wood for absolute years. It says do not throw away on there. It looks like garbage, but I think I've made most of my picks using this piece of wood. What I've got there's a couple of saw cuts. You can see they run the length, and that is perfect for your blade to fit in. And I kind of rocked the saw back and forward when I made it, and it means that some parts are shallower like that, and then some parts are deeper like that. Yeah, that one's a lot deeper there. So you can kind of move the pick around and get just the perfect shape on it. So we'll do a little bit of that now. This is where we use those Velour files I said about. These are really good quality files. They're not cheap, but they are really, really good. And I'll use that half round one because it's got the flat on one side, bit of round on the other. That half round is really good for getting into that internal radius of the hook. Johnny Locksport says, "Good old Bob, he was awesome." Yeah, Bob Ross, he was a legend, wasn't he? I think he was just so chill as well. If I'm ever feeling stressed, I watch a Bob Ross and his voice just chills you right out. I can't imagine anything ever bothered old Bob. So I've got some more. This is the 240 grit that I was using on that handle earlier on. And I'm going to use it to get rid of this. I don't think you can see it on the video. But you've got some sort of grinding and file marks in there. And this stuff is great for smoothing out the metal. So work it back and forth on the edge. And hopefully you can see there it's got rid of all those tooling marks and it's pretty smooth now. All right, I've got one more stage before I call this one finished and ready to test. I'm going to give it a little bit of a polish. We don't want any metal dust getting in there and contaminating the polishing process. So I've got my sandpaper box. We want some 800. I've got some 600. Got some 1000. I'm just going to go and get some clean water because I don't think I want to use that one that I was using when I was grinding the pick. Bear with me. There we go, a bit of fresh water in the cup. So yeah, that's the pick there. We could use it just like this to test it, but putting a little bit of a polish on the edges, on the flats of the pick, is also going to take off any burrs or anything we've got on the very edges of the pick, and that means when you're picking a lock, it glides in and out much easier. So I'm just going to fold it over and just go back and forth. The pick's just sandwiched in between there. You don't want to press too hard. If you press really hard as you're dragging it back and forward, you'll put a radius on the tip. It will just thin down the very tip of the pick. Ask me how I know. I've done it several times. Spent ages making the pick and then you fuck it up at the last minute. Don't need to do too much. I think that'll probably do us for the 600. And I've got some 800. Another couple of minutes and this pick will be looking pretty nice. Nice and shiny. Ready for me to test out. Might pick some locks with it this afternoon. Alright, we'll go on to the 1000 grit now. When I first started making custom picks, I wouldn't bother testing the picking tips. I'd just make them and then trust on my knowledge of what works and what doesn't in a lock. But I've just started testing them now. I just take them home, I'll pick a couple of 1100s or a Euro or just something easy really, just to get a feel for it. And then sometimes if there's anything I don't like about it, if the tip's kind of too fat or the shank's too fat, or I want to change this angle, then I'll go back to the grinder, reshape it a little bit and just go through these processes again, just fine tuning it until I'm happy with it. So that's how it looks after 1000 grit. Nice shape on that one. I do like these tips. It's kind of like a gem, but slightly deeper. Right, I'm going to get my glasses again. Where are they? Just there. I'm just going to give it a little polish up on this wheel. This is some sort of metal polishing compound. That was just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and that just lifts off the wax. So yeah, that's a basic polish. That's good enough for me to go and test this out. And assuming everything is okay with this, which it looks like it will be, it looks like a nice picking tip. What do you think? So then I will go over to my boxes up here. You know, perhaps select a little bit of wood. Sorry, lifted you up too high. Yeah, select some wood and start putting some scales on it. So I think I'm probably going to leave it there, folks, because we're about 2 hours in, and I've showed you, gone through all of the tools. I've showed you shaping these picks up to the point they're almost usable, and then also, yeah. Oh, Johnny Locks, it's fantastic looking profile. Cheers, mate. Thanks, I appreciate that. That's probably my favourite picking tip. I think I just made it by default. I was on automatic mode. But yeah, that should be a really nice pick. So what I'll probably do with this is I'll select some, after a test pick, select some wood, put some handles on it, but this will be fully polished up. I mean, I know that looks nice and shiny, but that's probably about a third of the way through the process for me to get it, you know, fully kind of mirror finished. I do like to go to town on it. And then it'll end up like that. Mask up the tip, select some wood, epoxy it. I might do another live stream soon and I'll show you kind of the bit between these two stages. So maybe if this pick's still around or some others, we can cut the wood and we can go through the epoxying process so you can see how we get it to this stage, that shitty stage, you know. Anyway, I don't know if anyone's got any questions before I disappear, but if not, thanks a lot for watching. Always appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. If you've got any questions, just put them in the comments. I'll hang around for a couple of minutes. But yeah, apart from that, we're all done. Cheers, AJ. Oh, Picksmith just showed up at the end. Yeah, you're too late, Picksmith. We kind of worked these two picks up here. That's an ebony one, and I can't remember what that is. I'll have to figure it out later. But yeah, just got it all shaped up and then made this profile just now. But at least you made it, mate. That's the main thing. He says he's going to go back and watch it. I'm going to make sure you do. I'm going to test you on it, Picksmith. Make sure you're paying attention. See if you learnt anything. I don't think I could teach you anything, mate. Great to have me show all the new people how it's done. Yeah, you've got to pass on the knowledge. I think, I mean, it was guys like yourself that I remember asking you loads of questions about how you do this, how you do that. I think it was Matt's lockpit as well. He taught me loads. Lockpicking devs videos were great, and I've just kind of got all that knowledge, added my stuff to it, and you've got to pass it on to people so that they, you know, carry on the flame, make some nice picks. Maybe next time we'll cut this one out as well. I did say we'd get the scroll saw out. Some really nice grain in this one. Tam Booth. Looking forward to this pick. We all learn something. Picksmith says you may learn something I don't know, and then I see you do it. It was good to learn from the old masters to share it going forward. Yes, that's it. We all just build on each other's knowledge, don't we? I don't do it the same way that I was taught or shown, but I take those techniques, play around with it, find what works for me, and yeah, you get results that way, don't you? And sometimes, I'm very much a sort of make shit up as I go along kind of person. So there's a lot of things that I've figured out. The more time I've put into it, they get me good results. And as you say, I pass that on to the next guy. Right, folks, I'm going to leave you there. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Oh, Johnny's just come in with a question. What do you use for handle pins? We didn't go into that today, did we? So I've got this jar here. I'll just quickly show you this. Some picks I don't use pins at all. Some picks I use internal pins, which are kind of made out of the epoxy. You do that by drilling the inside edge of the scales. We've got stainless steel there. We use stainless steel on that one. So that's a stainless steel rod. I just buy all these off of eBay. And then I've got some brass here. So this is brass tubing. That's thinner brass tubing. And sometimes I use like just a 3mm solid brass cylinder as well. I get these from my local B&Q, which is a local hardware store. But if you go online, you can, or I think I get it from eBay, stainless steel, you can get all sorts of stuff. I know Picksmith uses fancy stuff. He uses copper and things like that sometimes for the pins. But yeah, I just use the brass and the stainless steel. I really like the brass. And which pick was it? It was that pick. As I said, when I was sanding this one, the brass just comes off really well on the bench sander. You haven't got to worry about the snagging that you do with the stainless steel one. Yeah, stainless steel's the hardest to work with. Brass, copper, acrylic, a common pin material. Yeah, so you can use anything really. But I did hear several people say that a lot of picks don't even need pins. And I've, in fact, one of these ones. Yeah, you can see that one there doesn't have any pins in it. This is a Lawlock Lawlock Valerian, sorry, steel, and I've just put the acrylic on it. But what I did is I took my hole punch. I just banged a load of holes in the steel so it looks like Swiss cheese. And then when you put the two halves together, the epoxy kind of holds the handle on, and it's never really come off. Picksmith says, yeah, stainless steel can overheat the epoxy and debond. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like when you're using the bench sander like I was being quite careful with this one, just doing a little sand at a time. I've had it before, Picksmith, exactly that. I've just pushed too hard and the heat just goes straight up through those stainless steel into the pick, and then the pick debonds, and then you've got to muck around with super glue, which is a pain in the arse. So yeah, anyway, that's the pins that I use, Johnny. Yeah, Picksmith says never heat metal past what you can touch it, and that's exactly what I was saying with this. Even the hacksaw can heat this up to the point that it's too hot. No worries, Johnny. I made this the other day in the workshop. I had this hacksaw. This hacksaw blade has made loads of picks. I used it for about 6 months worth of picks just to sort of cut them up like you saw me do with that one. And I just cut it off with my new hacksaw blade and just made this pick out of it. I recorded a bunch of videos yesterday just picking loads of locks, so they'll be sort of drip fed out on my YouTube channel. But I was actually surprised at how well this come up. I've never made a hacksaw pick before. So obviously really cheap material. It's not as strong as the stainless steel, of course. It'll bend, quite easily if you put too much leverage on it. But as long as you're sort of fairly light. I did the same. I think I just went to sort of 240 grit with this, just quickly sort of polished it up. But I picked a bunch of locks with it yesterday. Quite nice. Maybe we'll make one of those next time, because a lot of people haven't got fancy tools and stuff. So yeah, maybe we'll make a pick out of that hacksaw blade next time. Right, thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you on the next video or the next live or whatever. Yeah, I'll see you later.